The crime-fighting duo Bernard and Stubbs are back. And this time, instead of Bernard not knowing anything, now he kind of knows everything. And Caleb and Maeve dive into the deep underbelly of MobWorld and find, well, it's a lot like Westworld, just with more flies. Like a lot more flies. It's Westworld, Season 4, Episode 3. Anais Folles. Oh, man, I knew I was going to mess that up. It's crazy years in French, folks. Where you gonna go? Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Westworld. Yep, catching me solo again this year, so a lot of time to dive into all sorts of fun little things. So want to be sure to thank everyone joining us in the comments, everyone joining us live, everyone joining us in the archives. Thank you so much for joining us. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button, do all of those regular things. We'd love to see you back. And of course, obviously, spoiler alert for Westworld Season 4, Episode 3. So yeah, let's kind of just dive into things. I like this episode. You know, we've been moving, I think, really well pace-wise this season. Nothing is dragging out. Not that the show really does that. I think it's always delivered really episode to episode. But I love the pace of things going. We are not sitting with a bunch of mystery for a long period of time. I mean, yes, we have some overarching mysteries. We still don't know what's going on with Christine. There's some timeline issues. You know, there's some motivation issues and things like that. But I think we're really moving along very quickly from pace-wise. And I love the fact that we, as the show tends to, kind of spend an episode focusing on really one or two small little characters and their arc. You know, we started off with Dolores and Caleb and Maeve, and then last episode we were getting a little bit more with Man in Black jumping in with things. This one we're really focusing just on Caleb and of course Bernard and Stubbs coming back. You know, where Christine's not in this episode, so we get a nice, I think, focus of characters, and I think with the time, the way they use their time really pushes through a lot of storyline and allows them to cover a lot of ground and just keep things moving. If anything, you cannot to say that Westworld takes its time and meanders things out. I mean, it does in a good way, but not in a boring way. Nothing is wasted. There's no filler episodes generally of Westworld. So let's get into things. I've got my notes set up here a little bit different to try and make this a little bit easier and more interactive. So yeah, let's kick things off with Bernard and Stubbs. Really excited to see them back. I loved their duo last season. And you know, Bernard, always a great character. Really got to enjoy Stubbs a lot more. Luke Hemsworth was not the one that I was thinking, yeah, I want to see more of this character initially. But over the seasons, I've really come to enjoy it. And I think they found a really good dynamic between the two of them. Bernard, of course, has been in the Sublime, what appears to be these past 7 years. I don't think they gave us any particular time, so there is a possibility the way that the show does in playing with time and setup that Maeve and Caleb storyline and Bernard and Stubbs might be out of sync, but I don't believe so. I think this is all happening at the same time. The only one that I think we're going to be off with and don't have any further clue on is Christine's storyline, the Dolores's new Dolores, not Dolores's storyline. But we don't really have to worry about that today with this episode, so that's good. The Sublime, though, I love how they did that. Dream sequences, we've seen a lot of dream sequences over there, and the way of trying to piece together different imagery and linking bits and stuff, and to greater or lesser effect. I think they did a really good job with this. I love the fact that I think it's familiar because it kind of replays a lot of Bernard's story, a lot of things that we are used to, so we can grab onto the images. We're kind of having the dream sequence along with him because we know all of these images and all of these places and all of these events. So I think that's a really smart way to do it. And then, of course, just the camera work and everything else, the imagery that was chosen. You get your dream imagery of the tree on fire. You get the shifting of the saloon from being empty to having dead bodies in it. And then it's the streets of Westworld, and then it's the streets of Los Angeles, and it's the war that we had. So riots, I think that what's the one that they're calling it. So I love the fact that we get to kind of trace those moments along with him. We get to go in that dream. And then, of course, we follow the horse, very Westworldy. We get our shot of the tower where he comes into. And then, of course, we run into Zach McLaren. God, I love Zach. He's doing a lot of work lately, which is awesome. But yeah, Akechta was great to see as kind of the introduction to our world, as he puts it, the host world, or as Stubbs later calls it, robot heaven, which I think is a nice way to do it. But an idea of a timeless area, 1 year is 1,000 years to them, a millennia in 1 year, and a place where all possibilities, all worlds can be created within one's own mind. It's a very cool concept, both just as an afterworld for anyone, but especially for the hosts with the digital beings that they are, that this would in some ways be a perfect place for them to explore all of their possibilities, which they have. Luckily for us, most of those are the possibilities of the world. So much like we had Rehoboam mapping out this future for humanity and seeing all of the possibilities, and Solomon before that from the insane AI direction, we have more of just an observational. These are the possibilities that all end horribly for humanity. The bots seem to be okay. They've got their digital world. The Sublime is safe, especially as we saw it being hastened in the kind of permanent generator status of Hoover Dam. So they're going to be good for a while. But is that 100 years without even any maintenance? And that's 1,000 years per 100 years, 100,000 years. I mean, okay, long time for them to figure stuff out if they need to. Excuse me, a little bit parched. So anyway, within this, of course, as I was saying, they've been able to see all of the possibilities of our world, and that becomes the basis for Bernard's journey this season. Like I said, last year he was trying to figure out what was going on, was always kind of following clues one step behind Dolores. For this one now, he's got all of the clues. He has seen all of the possible futures, all of those different Rehoboam strategies and plans and possibilities. He has now, we can guess, seen them all. I mean, if he just went in and 1,000 years was 1 year and he's been in there for 100 years, that means he spent the past 7,000 years looking through all of the possibilities. I mean, come on, man. Doctor Strange, eat your heart out. More than 1 million. I'm saying that's probably what he's looked at. Anyway, so that gives him a real interesting thing. And of course, it makes him our sacrificial character. He is the one who, as Akechta puts it, you love them. He loves humanity. He wants to help them, even if in order to help them, he must die. And that's the kind of, the dark martyrdom guarantee that we have for Bernard going through this season, that in order to save humanity, he must die. Is that what's really going to happen? We'll have to figure that out. I am guessing there's definitely going to be changes in these plans as things go on. But it's a great position to put him. Bernard's always been a really interesting character. And now he gets, what does Stubbs say? God, you were insufferable before. And now, kind of knowing all the possible futures, he really is going to be a pain in the butt. And, and he doesn't use it to really help Stubbs, which is kind of just a continued just dick thing. Let's be honest. I mean, what he said later on when they were in the desert, that he wasn't even going to say anything about him wandering into potential laser fence and get cut in half. Oh, I know that you would warn you. Oh, thanks. Was it for breakfast? Oh, this looks great. Well, you're going to suffer with that, but I don't want that. Can I have this? No, I guess I got to have that. It's just, it's going to make him a wonderful pain in the butt. And speaking of Stubbs, I love one that he's looking better. Obviously, in the past 7 years, he got himself out of the bathtub and patched himself up. Great. He's still under directive that he has to protect Bernard Lowe at all costs. So, of course, he's going to stick around. The fact that he listens to him literally and doesn't touch him. So everything else is clean around, but he's untouched and covered in dust for 7 years of sitting there. He's got to have his little wins here and there. That's all that I'm saying. All right. So, oh, yeah. No, little upgrade for Bernard. Remember last season, he needed to have that little remote control thing in order to put himself into like violent mode and do things. Yeah, he doesn't need that anymore. I guess the upgrade, the clear out, the whole little Sublime adventure, put everything in purpose. He has no problems just grabbing a shovel and bag and kicking the crap out of people and cutting off heads. And again, another awesomely shot bit while Stubbs is just sitting there having a sandwich. We just get that shot in the background. Always watch backgrounds in these. Was the fight breaks out, and just without saying anything, the fact that we as the audience get held in the I don't know space for so long, I think is a great bit too. It allows us to go with the journey. Let's see. All right. So where do we have this now? All right. So we've got our new character, whose name I didn't write down yet. I know we'll get to know them all. It's not really a point. These people that Bernard beats the crowd up and beheads, so kills effectively with shovels, leaves in the car. They're trying to infiltrate this resistance group. Obviously, the resistance group are against the hosts or bought something against Delos. We don't get a lot of clarity in this. We just get that they're after a weapon, they're in deserts, they're in the middle of things, but I think we can come up with a few basic stuff. First off, glad she didn't shoot Bernard and Stubbs, because she would never have gotten into the Badlands, or the desert part of wherever they is. I like the security system. That's cool, but if you need two people to sit out and lift the things up as you drive through, and those two people are unknowns, I'm just saying that's some rough security choices right there. It's cool. It's futuristic. I don't know how effective it is and useful and whatever, but you know, I can't go with it's the future. I don't like a lot of the future trucks. They look goofy. They look like goofy future trucks. The fact that we do still have a few old cars around totally makes sense and totally looks good. I just didn't really like the trucks all that much. Of this group, first off, we'll jump into reasons why later on, I think. But I am wondering if this is a group similar, somewhat that Caleb is connected to, considering that this seems to be against hosts, since a host, Dolores's group, or Charlotte's and Williams, seems to have sent one of them in, being a host, and these are some sort of rebels. We can sort of like just guess that. So I'm wondering if this is something that Caleb is connected. The whys and wherefores I'll get back to when we get more into Caleb stuff. I am, of course, then waiting for the scene where Bernard has to reveal who he is, which you know is going to happen. And that's going to be problematic. And I hope Stubbs doesn't have to pay for it. Like, he's the one that gets caught into it, because that's just the kind of guy Bernard is. Anyway, I'm excited that they are back. I am curious what they're going after and what this weapon is and all of these things. But obviously, we're just meant to know that Bernard knows what's going on, and the rest of us just have to play catch up. But as I said, I will get to that military group again in just a little bit. Let's jump over to Maeve. Fangirling and loving it. Want to be sure to say hi. And Pushkin 1969, hello to you as well. Yeah, you'll settle for the tuna, fangirling. Yeah, exactly. I love their dynamic. I just love the way the two of them have been going after it, you know? Yeah, I know. Favorite characters, of course. All right, so Caleb and Maeve. All right, so MobWorld really is just a reskinned Westworld. I mean, really just a reskinned Westworld. Not only does the location look exactly the same, I mean, they shot it in the same place, which is why it does. But this is supposed to be not an island off of China, but now basically, I'm guessing Las Vegas. Though they haven't been specifically cleared. It could be an area around Las Vegas, and they've used a lot of lands, and this is just one. But we'll say that for now, in the area of Las Vegas. So it's supposed to be a new place, but not only does it look exactly the same, all of the narratives are almost exactly the same, with an updated look and a change of name, and that's it. We get the can coming out to the new Dolores, who definitely is not. We have, of course, the Maeve in the speakeasy, who is definitely not our Maeve. We have a Hector, Heck, I think he's called in this. Even I think they repeated some of the music and stuff for when they used Enter the Sandman for the robbery and stuff. So really is a reskinned area, which raises some interesting questions. I mean, one, why not? Use the same storyline. I know there's a lot of repetitions. We got when we had I can't remember, Shogun World, I think it was, had some similar characters and similar natives, which was kind of a cool overlay. I don't think it was quite so copy and paste as this one is. But on the other hand, if we're looking at Delos doing this, why would they? Why create anything else? This is just for their own means, for their own purpose. Why not just reskin everything, send it all in? How many repeat visitors do you have? I mean, Westworld's been using the same storylines for years and years. There's a lot of possibilities that people can explore through each one. And just in case it's been too much for you and you've already been to Westworld and this seems so familiar, hey, we got a couple of secret narratives that you can find that just find a little bit of the secret underbelly underneath. So in some ways, yeah, why not just do this? And you also just get the great characters. I mean, Maeve's commentary on just everything and around how it's all just kind of like a cheap copy. Even the Maeve character saying the same line, she's like, yeah, I said it much better than that. Which she did, of course, by far. Everyone really is kind of a cheap copy. And I'm not harping on the actors. I'm saying that is the choice, I think, that's intentionally made, which is really cool. But it does start to ask some questions. Again, it makes sense depending on what you're looking for the motivation is. If this is Delos doing things, okay, it's a cheap and easy way to continue narratives. Not everybody's been there. Maybe if it's more local now, it's a little cheaper. You can get some more people in that couldn't get to the old park. Wonderful. And then, of course, from Delos' standpoint, look, man, the park is not its goal. What that is, that's more questions. But at the very least, with the offerings of hats, as we know from the end of last episode, gathering information on people, being able to replace more people that haven't been at the park, creating other host copies of them, that certainly opens up the possibilities. If you get more people in, if you have repeat customers, you have these secret narratives and other possibilities as you go further into the park, I'm sure. And then, of course, you get more flies, which seem to be everywhere, which, again, is just nasty. But I love, again, that their continued presence in here, I think, is very evident of that there are these multiple plans going on. The flies are here, not just to hoax people in. They've got their own dark little plan, which we start to discover as we fly underneath. Before we get to the flies, though, the Westworld uprising, cathartic indeed. That was an awesome little bit where we think we're underneath it, What's fangirling? Totally didn't see the whole secret level that's actually the Westworld massacre. Yeah, exactly. It's a perfect way to sucker us in and to sucker them in. Which again is something else that we'll get more in, because I'm really curious not only how much is this to get old guests, new guests, expand things out in narratives, but also as a way to sucker specifically Maeve and Caleb in, because they are specifically targeted. And I don't know if they designed the entire park in that sense. I'm not saying that. But all of these levels are kind of a nice way to think, oh, we've gotten underneath. Oh, no, even this is fake. There's got to be another level underneath. Anything that is hidden has more hidden things underneath. If we've got a theme that we're repeating throughout this season, I think that this was it. And also just a hilarious way for the guard to show up, be like, okay, now, oh, we just got lost. No, they're coming. We got to run. We got to. And now we get our Dolores going nuts and running through and shooting everyone. By the way, any question that we've had, is Caleb a human or host? And I know that might be popping up, especially with some of the weird questions that maybe are rising up. He's definitely human. Not only did the guns not work on him, which we know work on the hosts and not Caleb, certainly shot Maeve and not him, but also once we get into the whole nasty fly section, they seem to be specifically attracted to human beings, to real people. Plus how the whole thing sort of wraps up. So if we had any questions, if there were any questions with anyone, is Caleb a replaced host for some reason? Was there more going on? I think we do have more about the Maeve Caleb war adventures that we're going to be getting into. But for now, at least we can see that Caleb is definitely human. All right, the flies. The nasty, nasty flies. Well, at least they're real flies and not mechanically nanobot flies. Is that a good or bad thing? I don't know. They seem to be real at the very least. And our little mystery goo that's going on, parasites. And a little shot of cells invading, collecting other cells, some sort of parasite that they are feeding to the flies that are seeming to be attracted towards humans, where they would deliver it, and then they deliver said parasite. Now, are the flies themselves being controlled by the parasite and thus could be steered? Or do they just go towards any human that they're released into and then the parasite? I'm not really sure what the necessary delivery mechanism is. I mean, they just seem to infect. There's definitely the crawling in of eyes, which is nasty, and of ears. So I think it's just they have the parasite on them, and by landing and touching, I think that they're able to infect whoever is getting it, would be my guess. And then it all seems to be controlled by sound. Appears to be ultra low frequencies, not detectable by humans. Birds do. Remember, we had the gentleman saying, it's the tower. I hear the noise, only me and the birds. If someone has a head injury or some sort of, damage to their ear, it's possible that there is some surgical thing or some scar tissue thing or some other biological reason why they might be able to start to pick up ultra low frequencies. Ultra low frequencies are known to be, they can make people feel very sick and uncomfortable. I think a lot of there's some sound weapon stuff that uses like ultra low frequencies and things like that. Don't dive into that in the internet. That's a rabbit hole you don't necessarily want to go down into. But basically, birds can hear it, hosts can hear it, humans can't hear it. That's maybe why the birds were dead and they could hear it, and how Maeve was able to detect that sound. However, it's working. They seem to be able to control complex behavior with people. That was our little experiment in the lab. Can you take these blocks? Can you arrange these blocks in a certain way? Can you destroy the blocks and then shoot yourself in the head? The simple A to B to C to D sequence. Also, can you override a person's desire to not shoot themselves in the head And is your control strong enough there? So at the very least, I mean, they're doing thorough research, is what I'm saying here. And you have to appreciate that from Charlotte's standpoint. It's good, thorough science. I'm kidding, of course. I mean, it is good, thorough science, but it's also very dark and nasty, and don't do it. So this answers a lot of questions. We still don't necessarily get any of the hows, and I think that's obviously what's going to be waiting for us for next episode. Okay. We got to talk about Frankie, because that's a very important wrap up to this episode. And look, I'm not going to lie. I don't care about Caleb's family. I mean, she's cute. The family's great. I love them. And there's a lot of stuff in this episode with them that I do like. I like Carver being the buddy bodyguard and really stepping in, supporting the mom, when Frankie's like, no, I can't go. Oh, Bear's got to learn this. And he's like, hey, I'll teach Bear this thing. It'll be certain out. I'll check in with you later. He's showing respect. He's being good. He's living in Frankie's world, which is why he's able to be cool and connect with him. That's just a cool little choice. And thus, as soon as he is replaced, we know she suspects, and we know, which is awesome. And it's not overly done. It's that simple, like, what are you talking about? Oh, yeah, well, we'll talk about it later. It's I didn't know that thing, but I'll quickly come up with that information. It's not overly done. It's not overly pushed. It's just enough that we as the audience obviously know, and that she suspects. The blood on the bear also kind of telling. And I like the fact that she finds, I don't like the fact that the little kid finds a dead body, but the fact that she follows up, that she knows something is wrong, finds the proof, tells mom, and mom believes her. This is always it's too much. Yes, she's got blood and stuff on her and everything, which, it's definitely the reason. But I just love the fact that we have this dynamic, this relationship, that even when things are crazy like this, they are connecting. And it's just moving forward. And yes, I understand that this is done in order to give us the feeling when we see Frankie in the lab, that, oh my God, they got her. And yes, I love the fact that he did get her, that he shot her. She shot him in the face with a little pellet gun, and then mom really shot him in the head and put him down. I love that. That was all great. All I'm saying is that for me, it's a waste of time because I don't totally care. And if you had just had Frankie in the lab, the way it was all sold, I would have been right with Caleb in this. Oh my God, they got her. We're seeing all these people. We're seeing the lab. We're following the same type of thing. I totally would have gone into it. So, look, they did a great job. It's very cool. I'm just saying that personally, if we don't really see any more of them, I'm fine. There's so much more story to deal with. It'd probably become very integral and important, and I'll probably end up eating my words. But I'm just saying this, that when the scenes were popping up, I really was like, can we just move? Can I get some more Bernard and Stubbs right now? Can I get Bernard and Stubbs? That's all I want. However, using Frankie to get to Caleb and that whole bit, man, that was painful. Emotionally, right with, totally suckered into. We got Maeve trying her best to use her powers to unlock the lock. We got Caleb freaking out trying to pull. We got a girl who's just programmed by killer flies to end up shooting. The tension on all of that was just beautifully done. I love that. Obviously, not her. And we all saw the trailer of the face opening up, and we all probably still got suckered right into it. I was, at least. I'm going to say that. So they've got Caleb. And he was the target. They need Caleb for something. Yes, we had a whole William Maeve fight. That was cool. Whatever. Passing stuff. We know that that's going to move on. That was just to give us some tension and basically keep her distracted while Caleb got flied. So we got a few questions that this kind of comes up here. One, does show that Delos can block out Maeve's abilities or influence. It did take a while to override the senator and for Maeve to get in. She was able to play with the electronics early on, but it wasn't her unlocking the door and letting Caleb in. It was William or Charlotte. I mean, whoever was behind that. Because he was able to then lock her out. So that was just you think you got through, but you didn't. Maeve will learn to overcome these, but it does give at least a level of challenge and stuff to us that we like, and also just shows that, you know, they haven't been sitting on their laurels all these years. They've been preparing. Now, we don't know why Caleb was important, but it does seem that much of this was all set up again to lure and capture Caleb, which means was the whole thing done, was even going after Maeve meant merely to flush Caleb out. I mean, why you couldn't find Caleb, I don't know. I don't know what levels of protection and things that might have been interplayed in order to keep him out. And we know that electronics and computers and things aren't all the same that they used to be with the interconnectedness under Rehoboam and such. But it does beg the question. Obviously, it seemed like the guy was going to kill him in episode 1 when he had him up with the gun and the daughter in the dark and the alley and all that. I don't know. Was he meant to scare him? Was he meant to shoot him? Was he meant to wound him? Was it a tranquilizer gun and not a regular gun? He was killed by Maeve before we ended up seeing, thankfully, really, in the long run. But it does start to raise that question. Is Caleb the main target? Maeve was just the way to get to him. Because they had to have known as soon as they kind of registered under the names that they used on the train that they were being observed. Maeve constantly talked about that the upper world was watched, and that's why they had to get underneath, because everything was watched there. So they had to have been seen sitting in the bar, seen jumping into the back of the truck to be delivered underneath into the dead body tubes or wherever that was. And that seemed to be a way to, again, further sucker them, let them come in, let them do their research, bring them slowly down, show them the fly, show them the lab. Now he sees Frankie, now he goes in, and now he's infected. How long have they been watching? From the senator's place already? I did ask. When she said, you've been invited, was that to them, the senator and his wife, or was that to Maeve and Caleb? Seems to be more the latter now, doesn't it? And I just like intelligent villains. So I'm really curious where we're going. And this gets us back to our rebels. If Caleb's attached to the same group that Bernard is meeting, then perhaps Delos, William, and Charlotte need Caleb to get information on the weapon that group is after, which I'm assuming is some EMP or something that will damage the hosts, or maybe a virus or something. We don't know. We don't know what it is that's out in the desert that they're trying to find. That seems very video gamey, doesn't it? Somewhere out in the desert. Now there'll be adventures, and now you have to do. Also, and this seems to allude to more to the Maeve, Caleb war adventures that we don't know about. We had them allude to it, what happened on the beach, that one thing. We had the flashback, which shows that Caleb seemed to be seriously wounded, which is the one who's putting out, was he replaced in his natural host? No, he's not. He's human. We can see that now. But is there more to the stuff going on? Is this where the weapon or thing that comes on, or some type of connection? Again, why do they want Caleb? He's not useful for anything unless he knows something. that we don't know that he knows. But I'm assuming that is what we're going to be getting into next week, and we'll probably start jumping back into the Charlotte William motivation and story there, and hopefully we'll get into what's going on with the whole Dolores bit. Let me jump in. Inquiring Mind mentions if Christine, Dolores, might be living in future world, except the humans are like the hosts and the hosts are the visitors to the park. That is a good possibility. It would certainly explain why the backstories that she is writing are infecting people and driving them to do things, and maybe they're reliving. You have people being flown in to live these lives and background deaths for the hosts. That is entirely possible, and that may be what's actually going on in Vegas. And MobWorld, the golden age, could be one of the areas outside, because in the first episode it was they're buying a lot of property in the old city and a lot of the surrounding area. So who knows what they have filled those spots in. Fangirling and loving it, wondering if the Caleb thing is revenge, because how Dolores seems that she felt so betrayed at the end of season 3 because Dolores had abandoned her for working with Caleb. That is actually a really good question. Hale definitely is petty enough to hold on to William in suspended animation and just pop in and just mess with him, twirl a mustache in front of him every once in a while. Would she want to add a Caleb onto that? Sure, maybe. I don't know if Caleb could be as, one, obviously William is intensely long history with Dolores and Darkseid, Hale, which would make sense why they would do this. I don't know if there is as strong a connection with Caleb. It would be interesting if that is her motivation. There was an interview after the first or second episode, with Lisa Joy after the episodes on HBO. They've got brief little behind the scenes and discussions. And one of the things that she had brought up is Hale's loneliness. But one of the reasons of keeping William around is there's a sense of loneliness. That is a remaining bit of connection, because everything else is kind of a copy of her, though they seem to be pulling more narratives and characters from the park itself. And it could be that she is just looking for that type of connections. And in that sense, having a Caleb around who would be the last connection with the other Dolores at the end would kind of make sense, that would be her connection to the other her through him type of thing. Or like, as you said, that it was abandoned, that Hale was abandoned for Caleb in her eyes. I kind of like that idea, because I kind of like the pettiness and illogic of the pettiness. But there's something that Akechta mentioned early on about him loving, about Bernard being in love with the humans. You love them, as irrational as that is. Almost jealous, I don't think I'd say it was jealous, but still that kind of idea of that pure emotion of is pettiness an emotion? It's prevalent. I don't know if if you find it itself as an emotion, but still that illogical connection. I kind of like that. That is kind of a cool idea. I'm guessing it's probably a connection with these soldiers, and there's some backstory of things that we don't know that we're going to get on about. But I do like that. I do really like that idea. Anyway, so yeah, I think that covers it. Seems to reach the end of my notes, at least, and everything that I sort of wanted to touch on to. Again, really enjoying this season overall so far. I like the pacing of it. I like that we're moving forward. I think this is the last episode. This is the last season. So there's a lot of stuff of ground to cover, and we have to have the saviors. We have to have battles. We have to find out what's going on with Dolores, and all of these have to be answered in what? 5, 10, I think it was there 8 episodes. in this season. Usually there were 10 in the first release. I think I looked back and I think that there's only 8 in this. So that's still a lot of ground to cover, but I'm really looking forward to it. Anyway, I think that covers it all. If you guys got any other questions in the chat, no, we're good. All right, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you guys so much for joining on this little discussion and review. You can catch me at Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Darren Jakes. It's right there we have on the screen. Otherwise, we'll be back here next Tuesday, 7 o'clock-ish. Had to go to 7:15 because I was running late on plans and regular work stuff. So, but usually 7 o'clock Tuesday nights. We'll catch you next week for episode 4, where I'm hoping that we get more of the William Hale story and then find out, of course, what's going on with Dolores, maybe what's going on with this weapon. Is that too many questions to ask to be answered in one episode? We'll find out. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.